Hello and welcome back to SPINcast. My name is Sheridan, and today I am joined by Bearlight and Brayden, and today we will be talking about yet another recruiting tool that you can use, and that is social media and branding. Social media, like I said, is another tool that you can use in your recruitment experience, and it can help you if you're using it properly. Brayden, you run the Stay Plugged In Twitter account, and thus you're on Twitter a lot, seeing a lot of students who are looking for these recruiting opportunities. How should students be using social media to help themselves get recruited, set themselves apart, etc.?
Yeah, so if your sole goal is to brand yourself on Twitter as to get recruited and make yourself as appealing to a university or another program as possible, you need to look at it as an active resume, and that being you need to update all endemic life events. You can update your own life events if you truly want to, but if you're wanting to keep it on focus with esports, just the competitions you're playing in, your placings. Any clips that you got from that, you can link your Twitch to your Twitter account, and so you can automatically publish clips that you get on Twitch to Twitter. So you're just wanting to make it as much of a public display of who you are and who you want the colleges to see you as possible, right? And I think that's easiest on Twitter. Obviously, some other ventures you can get into is Instagram, TikTok. And all those serve their own purpose, but Twitter itself is truly going to be the biggest platform to where you can just kind of lay out who you are.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I would say, it's all about being active there as well and having frequent posts because, college esports recruiters are out there on social media as well, and they're looking at these players, right? And if yours stands out as being active, number one, it shows that you're very involved in community, which will help, with colleges who are looking into you. But number two, it's that you constantly know how to use the platform, and perhaps maybe even a college, you can kind of help them out with their social media. But we'll get into that a little bit later too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Brayden, how effective would you say that using social media is for getting recruited?
Super effective. I mean, that's the first place I'm going to go when I'm trying to find someone in general, whether that be a player or a college or a coach. I'm immediately going to look up their gamer tag on Twitter, and whether it's you controlling what's being said about you or not, you're going to pop up. And so as long as you can have some control of what people are seeing, that's going to be the best bet for a college to find you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts about conducting yourself on social media if you do choose to have a profile that is reflecting your recruitment experience. Because, of course, you don't have to use social media, but it is a great tool to get your name out there.
The biggest thing is read back through your tweets. It helps for two reasons. Number one is pretty on the surface. If you have typos, things like that, you have to repost. It's a pain. But the more important part is how's your tone, right? And are you really portraying what you are trying to say within your social media post? There are some times where you may not mean a certain thing to be a negative way, but you read back and you're like, man, I didn't mean it that way, right? I meant it this way instead. And maybe there's a different way that I could have phrased that as well. And for my don'ts, do not be posting things that are inappropriate. Number one, that's going to hurt you. Like Brayden said, this is a resume essentially that you're putting out there, right? This is your life that you're showing as well. So somebody who may seem a little crazy from time to time, it may not be the best look necessary. So always read over your posts is the moral of my story, at least.
I'd like to add on to that and just kind of explain that it is your public or your opinion, so you can be opinionative on it.
Yeah,
but just
exactly.
make sure you're being the true you that you want people to see. I know Bear's driving that fact as well. Some do's that I'd say, definitely interact within your community a lot, because it's just going to show how people perceive you, right? And so, like, if you're willing to go out there and say GG's to every team you play, you're a good sport automatically. Like, everyone's going to want to interact with you more. Some don'ts kind of this might not be an exact don't, but don't worry about follow count. It's just a number. You posting what you want to post and making sure that it's viewable for who you want to see it, that's all that matters. And so just making sure you have good content, and yeah, don't worry about follower count.
Absolutely. And I would say don't be so quick to run to Twitter to air out your grievances.
That's right.
Utilize features such as Twitter circles, or even having a separate private account where you might want to vent, or you might want to talk about more personal things. that would be one of my biggest tips. I know everyone is very quick to go to Twitter when something happens, but think about it, think before you tweet, and then utilize private accounts, Twitter circles, stuff like that is really important.
To add on to that as well, take any argument to the DMs. No one wants to see you going back and forth on the time. It's good entertainment sometimes, but it's just going to hurt you in the long run. Take it to the DMs, hash it out between you two, make it a civil thing. You're done.
Yeah, who was it? I think it was Jan in RLCS that was going after one of the bubble players in Rocket League and Money, and they had a back and forth just to bring up a recent point. It doesn't do yourself very many favors, right? Jan was one of the more popular players, and still is, but it definitely hurts a little bit as far as his appearance. So, not to call him out specifically, but it is an important point to consider before taking that argument on Twitter. DMs are the right place. I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what should students be including on their social media to maybe better their chances of getting recruited, or, putting information out there that coaches might want to see?
So starting off, your bio is going to be the first thing anyone's going to check out. So making sure you have an up-to-date bio, and it's not too wordy. It's just getting the main points you want out there. To highlight a few, I'd put your graduation class, GPA, game, the role you play, and then links. You can do a link tree that's free, and you can link to any other socials you want to plug, your YouTube channel, stuff like that.
That's been huge for me too in my personal branding because I'm a caster. So that link tree is perfect. It'll link you to every other social media platform, and you can include that on every single one too. So no matter where they find you, they can find you elsewhere too. And of course, if you want to look like a tryhard, you have to have the anime profile picture. Just kidding. Just kidding. Typically, a picture view is pretty awesome, right? It's pretty genuine. It seems very personal as well. So like you said, it's kind of like a resume. You can use Twitter almost like LinkedIn, although it's definitely not a substitution for LinkedIn. It's definitely, like you mentioned, Braden, like a resume. So, putting a personal snapshot, right, a headshot would be super nice. And I think that would impress a lot of college coaches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in my advice, sometimes when I write the spin articles, I always say, you don't have to say exactly where you live, but you can put like regional, like, oh, I'm in the South, I'm in the Midwest. That can also help, help coaches, if they're in your area, contact you and find where you are. Barely on the topic, like you said, you're a caster. What advice do you have for students who may want to, start their own personal branding?
There are so many opportunities whenever you just get out there. Number one, the way that I got my casting career started was just by streaming myself and looking into the basics of that, right? So Twitch and other outlets, although it's not really considered social media, it is social after all. So that's definitely helped me out a bunch. But when we talk about like the actual like social platforms like Twitter and Instagram, things like that, if I'm doing big events, I love when people are like, hey, that's pretty cool. He's just now, when you take the next step in the process, now he's doing collegiate esports. That's pretty big, right? Pictures from that and keep people updated there for you too. It serves like a resume, like we've mentioned multiple times, where it's like, hey, I've been casting. I've casted for PAX, for Valorant, right? So I'm also well-rounded in Rocket League too. So here are the many different avenues I can kind of go down. And like you mentioned, we can also link all of your socials so they can find you in multiple places too. So it's really just a web of connections. It's also about who right? That's what I'm talking about when I say connections. It's really getting to know and really network between different casters within the scene. You'll be surprised how many times that you'll run into the same caster for doing multiple events in places you didn't think was going to happen, and that's just good networking overall. You can be pulled into different events that way as well. So the more active you are on social media, it also has helped me out tremendously and can help you out if your calling is casting or even different avenues down esports as well, marketing. Braden, same thing, and basically any avenue, graphic design, video editing, the whole nine.
Yeah, definitely want to add on to that with networking is going to be your the biggest tool as far as just kind of learning, I guess. You can play in game and get better and hone your crafts all you want, but until you're actually learning with your peers, like that's where I find the most gems, truthfully. I follow a bunch of other social media managers, a bunch of other digital media managers on Twitter, and you're learning different voices and how to phrase different things different ways and how to make it more appealing and what emojis to use, and it's the most valuable tool that I've used in my life, and to make it my job is incredible.
I think it's also important to mention that a lot of schools are starting to recruit non-player roles as well. So this advice can help not only players but also aspiring casters, aspiring social media managers. So keep that in mind. But let's talk a little bit about the negatives of social media. When you're young and a student, social media can be incredibly negative and harmful to your mental health. So what advice do you have for students who maybe need to take a step back, or what do they need to hear when dealing with negatives on social media?
The mute and block buttons are your friend. It's not as negative of a scope that people want to put it into. If you block someone, it's your personal choice. You don't want to hear what they have to say. Awesome. It's going to better your mental health in the long run. Go for it. Muting keywords. If you don't care about a topic, you don't want to see a topic, you don't even want to look at the word. Done. It's over. You won't see it again. It's an incredible asset to have on any social media platform, as well as taking those mental breaks and just logging out. You can just take 2-3 days off and still remain active and be okay. You don't have to be on it every day. You're fine.
I agree. I don't necessarily think that you have to take multiple days off specifically. There are a couple of different practices you can do as well. I think a couple of days could be important. Don't get me wrong, because that could be a refresher. You come back and not all is lost. It's not like you're losing all your connections. But I do think it's important that if you want to stay active and avoid some of those negative situations, sometimes you can create them yourselves and you don't even realize it. I know, me being the naive kid I was back in the day, a lot of the trolls that literally just exist on social media to get a reaction out of you will constantly post on things. So it's always good to take a second before you respond to somebody on social media. Just because they put an idea out there does not mean that they are genuine about it. They might just be trying to cause reactions. And so sometimes I would argue it's better to just, let that post go and just keep on scrolling as well. If you want to stay active, you still can, but sometimes it's better to not engage with those individuals who are just there to get a reaction out of you.
That's exactly the response that I was going to have, is you don't always have to respond. And like Braden said, take it to the DMs if there is a particular incident that's going on. Like Bearlight said, there are trolls on the internet who are specifically on there to get a reaction. Take a moment, take a breather, and then come back to it. But social media can be an incredibly important tool, and one of the key spaces for collegiate esports in particular. So let's talk a little bit about how players and students can use Twitter specifically to learn about college esports and the different colleges there.
Yeah, so firstly, I'd start out by following any colleges you're A, interested in, or B, are local to you. Because one is going to teach you how they operate and everything that you're going to need to know from a social media standpoint with a college, as well as they're probably going to post how you can get recruited or what they're looking for specifically. So you can kind of mold yourself to their likings that they're wanting to recruit from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great point. And you can also find the players from those programs on social media as well. So if you're interested in Overwatch, you can message someone from Redbird Overwatch and ask, hey, what's your experience with the program? What do you like about it? And get that kind of personal, direct feedback there. Additionally, you can also find on the Stay Plugged In website, many of the colleges that are on there have their social medias linked. So that should be your first step to go. Take a look at the colleges on Stay Plugged In, hit them up on Twitter, and you can also find out a lot more about these programs and their inner workings on Twitter. So you can see what kind of events they're hosting. Do they host community nights? Do they host, pizza parties? Anything like that. You can kind of get more of a grasp on the student life and the interactions that happen there.
Yeah, so if I could ask a question, actually, Sheridan, you attended Florida State University. How did you discover Florida State esports?
I discovered Florida State esports at tabletop night. I was randomly playing Catan, and the esports club was having their general body meeting at the same time that the casual gaming club was hosting Tabletop Tuesday. And so I randomly saw a bunch of people who were into esports. I didn't know anything about the competitive side of gaming, but I was interested. And then from there, kind of noticed that they had a lack of a social media presence, and I strive to create that myself when I became an officer. So yeah, I mean, word of mouth, kind of being at the right place at the right time, but it doesn't have to be that way now. You can find them on social media, I promise.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
I agree. I think, one of the big things to understand about esports in general, if you want to get involved in a college program or in a professional stance as well, like if you want a job in esports, that not all of it's been hashed out, right? Not a lot of it's, some companies are still building and growing. I think it's very specific for college programs currently. So you can find that opportunity. That's a way that you can use social media too. Find what they might be needing that you have as an asset, in addition to just seeing and kind of feeling out what they're all about, right? What they like to do in their free time or elsewhere. You can actually see how can I be a benefit here? And guess what? At the next Stay Plugged In recruiting events, if they're there, you can talk to them and say, listen, you all have some pretty strong videos, right? But I create these incredible videos. Check these out, right? It just adds to your knowledge of programs, and you can kind of use that to leverage a little bit if you need to.
Adding on another tool a skill that I see a lot of people using, graphic designers specifically, is if they're a fan of one specific team, they'll start customizing graphics for that team and tweet them at them and say, hey, I just made this, I want you guys to see it. Yeah. That's one, showing what you can do, two, getting your name in their heads, and then if they follow you, they're going to see everything you put out there from then on. So it's just opening the door for so many opportunities. So that's graphic designer specifically, but you can apply that to many different roles, right?
Let's move into some recruiting Q&A. When should I start looking at colleges? And then the secondary question here is starting as a freshman too early, or what can those freshmen do to start setting themselves up for success?
Yes, I don't think those are too early. If you want to express interest in something, express it as soon as you're interested, right? You want to make sure that you're following and getting as much content from them as possible, so you're as informed as possible. So I like to apply the typical, like, you start learning about college's sophomore year, right? And then you take the SATs, the ACTs, and junior year, senior year. So you're just only going to get busier. So the earlier you jump into it, the better prepared you are, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think earlier the better. Obviously, there's a point, like, if you're in sixth grade, maybe now it's not the time, right? But I get your sentiment for sure. Like when we talk about like ninth graders upcoming into high school, and I think that's not even too early, because the sooner that you get on the radar, the sooner that you can prove yourself, number one, that you have the talents, you have the attitude, and that you're looking for colleges. Also a stronger suit too, because you can plan in advance. You can see where you are in 5 years, right? And so I think that's very important for freshmen. Also, the more colleges that you're connecting with over this period of 4 years when you're in high school, you can also say, hey, listen, this school has, had some interest in me, but I appreciate the time, right? It kind of gives you some talking points and saying, hey, this college was helping me out in this way, so on and so forth. You can create more of a path, and you create more opportunities for yourself the earlier you begin.
Additionally, not only will you be able to build your skill up in your specific esport, because you start as a freshman, you have 4 years to, keep grinding solo queue. But you can also get involved early in high school. If your school has an esports club, join it, become an officer, see what a difference that you can make there. If your high school doesn't have an esports club, start one. That is a huge component to being a recruit. Not only is it your skill in the game, but being able to show that, hey, I started my high school's esports club, I ran it, I did this, I did that, I ran events, I ran the social media, whatever you did for your esports club, that is incredibly key to your recruiting resume and will help you stand out as a recruit. So getting started early, there's a lot of benefits there.
Completely agree. I have a buddy who's at the University of Mizzou right now. Originally, he just enrolled in the school and wanted to go to school. And then esports became prevalent, and he wanted to join the Valorant team, eventually became a top 25 NA team, right? And then the school recruited him to be the esports coordinator, and now he has a full-time job with the university working directly in esports. So the doors just keep opening the more involved you get. So you just have to put yourself out there.
That's true. I would say a caveat to everything that we've discussed about starting early, like freshman year, is don't miss out on the high school experiences, just to do esports exclusively, right? It's very important that you look into different other avenues too. But esports, if you want it to be a prevalent part, that's cool too. But there are other things that you can do. You can join all sorts of different clubs that may interest you as well. That'll give you good opportunities in the academic standpoint too, which you'll definitely need when you have conversations with esports programs. It's not all about, hey, I'm an immortal, so that means I can make 1.5 GPA and be fine. So it does come with that caveat. You want to make sure that you are doing big things academically as well over that high school career too, and that you're not just focused on that esports side.
Yeah, absolutely. And do your research. Take your time to do your research. You may go to college for esports, but what are you going to do after that? You have to get a degree that, means something to you and that you can use and that you're interested in. You have to be interested in it. I think this was great advice that we have given our audience today. Let's talk a little bit about some of the events we have coming up. If you're wanting to get recruited, we do have some IRL recruiting events that you can attend. First up, we have the Play vs. Road to College event, which will be taking place on May 20th and the 21st. Play vs. Stay Plugged In and Hall High School are teaming up to put on this awesome event where students from across the region will have the opportunity to compete and showcase their skills in front of college coaches. And that will be Rocket League, League of Legends, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So if you play one of those games, come join us.
Then we have the Body Armor State Games as well coming to North Carolina. So that would be, from June 3rd to June 4th. It's hosting Rocket League, Smash Brothers, and Valorant as well, a hot title. So that's North Carolina players only. But we are housed here, the headquarters here in North Carolina, at least on my side. So I'm excited to see some of the local players come through. If you do participate in any of those titles from the North Carolina area, again, that's June 3rd and 4th here in North Carolina.
And then we have the Nutmeg State Esport Games being put on in the state of Connecticut, and it's open registration, but it is taking place in Connecticut, and that's going to be Rocket League, Super Smash Brothers, and League of Legends as well, with a $900 prize pool. I'm sure there will be plenty of scouts there recruiting, as well as our Spin Showcase online, and those are going to be $500 prize pools, and those titles are going to be Rocket League, Overwatch, League of Legends, and Valorant. And the Rocket League and Overwatch games are going to be taking place on June 24th, and it's a one-day double LM tournament, all online. And then Valorant and League of Legends are going to be taking place on July 15th. So keep your eyes open on those.
The Riot titles. I mean, I've given some love to the League of Legends players, not only in the Northeast, but then online too. So if you're in the League of Legends, I mean, this is the time, your time to shine. Step up and attend in some of these events.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we have for you today here on the SPINcast. Any final thoughts?
Keep your social media clean, and good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Bye.